welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. A good, straightforward topic, which I'm sure a lot of you have an answer for. Here we go. What's the worst thing a sibling has ever done to you? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. When I was 17 on Super Bowl Sunday, I had an English paper due that I needed some supplies to help finish it. My brother and I were supposedly to share a car. He refused to give me or to even talk to me and give me the keys so I could get materials. Now keep in mind that it was Super Bowl Sunday. Time was ticking down, and I had an effing research paper that I needed done before the game. After 20 to 30 minutes pleading and begging to be allowed to use the car, which was our mom's car, not his, and had been told that I was to be able to use, I started getting pissed that my asshole brother was preventing me from doing my homework. I decided that I'd had enough and was going to take the keys. I entered his room, demanded the keys. Of course, this asshole refused to listen to me. End story. The guy stabbed me in the arm with a compass, the type for drawing circles, and I bloodied up his face with a single kick to the face. My brother is beyond short, but I still don't know how my foot made it to his face. After I realized what I had done, I backed off and tended my own wound. My brother, on the other hand, called the police, said I had just beat him up. Since I was young and naive, I told the police the exact truth, and my brother proceeded to lie his effing face off, even claimed I was on drugs, and was demanding the car go get more drugs, which I wasn't. I was arrested for assault, still on my record today, missed the Super Bowl, and wasn't able to complete my research paper on time. I had to hire and pay for a lawyer while earning minimum wage as a fast food job. Luckily, the DA didn't bring me to court, and I wasn't convicted, but this shit still haunts my record to this very day. I nearly didn't graduate on time. I had to earn my English credit by exam from a third party because of the research paper, and my brother is still a douchebag troll asshole. When I was about 7 or 8, my town was pretty rough. My parents showed my sister and I where there was mace, in case we ever needed it. My sister somehow convinced me that if I breathed 5 puffs of her asthma inhaler, I would die. She kept puffing them in my face. 1, 2, 3, 4. I flipped the F out, ran for the mace, and sprayed it all over her face and body. She ended up in the hospital for a few days as a result of this. Luckily, her skin was not permanently damaged. TLDR. My sister convinced me her asthma inhaler would kill me, so I maced her. My older sister told me when I was 3 that I was going to die at 5 p.m. the next day. I spent 24 hours in sadness and terror, but for some reason I didn't tell my parents what my sister had said. I don't know why. Instead, at 4:30 p.m. the next day, I went out to our family station wagon with my favorite blanket and cried until it was time to pass. And then 5 o'clock came around and nothing happened. And 5:05, then finally 5:15. I crawled out of the station wagon and ratted my sister out to my mom. Parents were not happy. I brought this story up recently, and we laughed about how awful of a sister she was. Sister pulled a steak knife on me and tried to jam it in my side for changing the channels from MTV's Headbanger Ball back in the day. She may have been justified now that I look back. Same sister, years later, stole $700 in change from a large container labeled Son's College Tuition, and then played dumb, crying right along with my favorite wife about the loss. The next week, she suddenly had an although piece of crap car sitting in her driveway. My siblings knew that my parents were still gambling, even after I made them sign a contract stating that they would not accept a loan from me. They all hid it from me because they thought it would be funny. Then my brother got drunk one night and called and said, "Yeah, Mom and Dad have been going to the boat every night for the last year and a half. We all knew, all 5 of my siblings, that you gave them money, and that you said they couldn't go if they took it. Well, shows you who's smarter, Mr. Money Person. They've been having fun with that $10,000 you loaned them. Good luck ever seeing that again." When I was about 8, my sister told my dog to attack me. This was the dog that I knew and loved. I'd spent the most time with him than any of my family members, but because my sister had said it with such intent and malice, He started baring his teeth at me and growling. He was just about to jump on me when my dad stepped in. I never looked at him the same way. TLDR, my sister ruined my relationship with my best friend. I remember when I was 8, I spent a good chunk of my sick day setting up literally hundreds of dominoes in a row. I was about 6 away from completion, and the sudden sense of accomplishment started to surge over my body. I was so excited I could hardly contain myself, knowing that I was about to knock them down in a beautiful orchestra of simple gravity and physics. As I placed one more down, I heard the one sound that I dreaded, rapid, light little clicks. To me, this sound was the sound of my heart cracking at an exponential rate before it shattered. I looked up only to visually confirm what the sound implied, the premature launch of my row of dominoes. The dominoes were quickly approaching my position, and tears began to swell in my eyes as I saw my hard work destroyed before me. The sense of hopelessness was overwhelming, knowing there was nothing I could do. Each domino knocking the next might as well have been a serrated blade entering my body. I look over my failed day's work to investigate what happened, only to see my 23-year-old sister with the biggest shit-eating grin on her face. My brother stabbed me in the arm with a ballpoint pen when I beat him at Clue. Had to get stitches. Then 2 weeks after I had abdominal surgery, he beat me up and kicked me repeatedly in the stomach where my incision was still raw. Maybe the most painful experience I've ever had. I try not to talk to him. Ever. Oh man, my sister confessed to me when I was 12 that she tried to choke me out when I was an infant and had to stop because my mom came back in the room. At that time, she was blackmailing me every single day because my dad was an idiot and grounded me forever. So I had to do what she asked so that I could go play basketball with my friends. She ratted on me about everything and just recently spewed nonsense to my family in a foreign country, knowing that I can't really say anything about it. Language barrier. She had times when she was helping me out, but that was so minor in comparison to the shit she had me go through. She's a real bitch, and I haven't spoken to her in 3 or so years now. My brother is a contractor, and after offering to handle our whole home renovation, he started demolition, then decided he was too busy to finish and abandoned the project. He just didn't show up for 2 weeks, and when I contacted him, he showed zero remorse for effing me over. I've paid him almost $20,000 up front as a deposit for work to be completed. The reno started in June. Right now, the master bedroom has no fixtures. There's no doors anywhere. The back wall of the second floor is missing. It's October and getting cold. The bathroom is gutted to the studs. The kitchen has missing walls, and there are massive holes in practically every remaining wall. Before just walking off, he just not show up for days at a time or only work a couple of hours, then complain he was underpaid the rest of the time. On top of that, due to him having poor credit, I let him use an extension of my credit card with his name on it to purchase materials, which he then proceeded to use to buy gas, food, and booze for himself. When I asked him to stop, he agreed, then continued to do so. I'm now out $50,000 in labor and materials, and now I have to find another contractor.
I know it's an old cliche, but family and business rarely make good company. At that point, if that's exactly as it happened, you should sue your brother. I mean, 50 grand and he spent your money? I don't know. Terrible.
So, when I was around 3 years old, my bipolar sister bit a large chunk of flesh out of my stomach. At 9, she stomped on my head with her heel while I was laying on the ground watching TV. At 13, she punched me with her full strength in my throat. These are the only ones I've burned into my memory, but good God, there were so many more. I'm the oldest of 4 siblings. The runner-up is 2 years younger than me. One day when I was around 8, I was in my backyard swinging on a tire swing. My brother was yelling at me to get off because I was on it for a long time, but I told him whatever. The 8-year-old version of F off is. My brother got pissed and grabbed an enormous 8-foot tree branch that had fallen on the ground, walked over to me, and repeatedly beat me with it until I had scratches and blood all over my face, arms, and legs. Then when I was laying on the ground crying, he gently placed the branch down and commenced swinging. The worst part was, my dad got this all on camera and was laughing throughout the whole ordeal. When we were kids, my older sister handed me a spoonful of white granules and told me it was sugar, so I excitedly shoved it in my mouth. Turns out it was actually salt, which dried up all of my saliva and made it near impossible to breathe without gasping. So she handed me a glass of clear liquid and said, "Quick, drink some water." It was vinegar. Then I vomited. When I was 12, my 18-year-old sister was supposed to keep an eye on me one Friday night when my parents were doing something. I don't remember, not important. My sister was supposed to take me to the high school football game, but instead, she took me to a party where she snorted coke right in front of me while I sat on a couch with a guy who kept asking if I wanted a cigarette. My older sister used to punch me in the face and then tell my mom that I fell. I'd be too dazed and crying hysterically to actually tell my mom what happened. She also used to hold my head underwater randomly when I'd swim in our pool. When I was 6, she said, "Let me see your hand." So naturally, the over-trusting little kid I am, I held my hand out. She proceeded to take toenail clippers and clench to the skin on my hand with them. She told my mom she wanted to know how it felt, but didn't want to hurt herself. She now lives in constant fear that I will retaliate. My older brother was cool, except he hated when I got scared of the dark and would try to sleep in his room on the floor. I always thought he could beat up any monsters or bad guys. One day, after clearly telling me I was not allowed in, I still stealthily crept into his room and slept in my sleeping bag on the floor. He woke up, saw me, tied off my sleeping bag with me still inside, and hurled it down the staircase like a bag of garbage. I was a crumpled heap, tied in a sleeping bag with the wind knocked out of me. I learned my lesson. One that sticks out, though not the worst, is when I sold a painting I made in art class to my history teacher. She gave me $100 for it. I was excited. I got home from school and took a nap. I woke up and the money was gone. Found out a year or two later that my little brother stole it because he needed money to go to King's Dominion. He was unapologetic. My younger brother was about 6 while I was 10 years old. One day I'm reading a book on my top bunk like a good 4th grade student when my brother ascends the ladder, buck naked, and stands in front of me on the bed. "Wanna play whiff with me?" he says in his stupid 6-year-old semi-chimp-like lisp. "No, I'm reading. Later." "Play whiff with me or you'll be sorry." And then I was sorry. This ghastly ape of a hellspawn then proceeded to unleash a torrent of piss into my mouth as I'm speaking all over my face, hair, clothes, bed, and book. The horror. For 10 seconds I'm completely stunned, whilst his maniacal howler monkey screams of laughter echo around our bedroom. And then I get angry. I thrust both legs at the orangutan-like creature in front of me, sending him careening off the top bunk into a spiky, jagged box of Legos where he earns himself several lacerations in a flurry of simian squeals. In the end, I received several weeks of grounding for injuring my stupid little brother, while he got away with pissing in my mouth. When I was 7, my sister, 2 neighbors, and I were on my trampoline. I was laying on the side of the trampoline on the top cover of the springs. My sister is double bounced and lost control in the air, and then proceeds to land on my balls full force. She was 11 at the time. She didn't even yell at me to move. She said that she had the choice of landing on my ribs or my balls, and said that she thought the balls would be less painful. Boy, was she wrong. I was in the fetal position for 3 hours and almost passed out a few times from the pain. I still don't let her live it down, and it's happened 15 years ago. My brother, who is 4 to 5 years younger than me, is a Satan spawn. I had to help raise him because my mom is ridiculous and irresponsible. He has a terrible Portuguese temper, as do I, but he would always be an ass in front of my friends. He's humped their legs and held them down. One time, which was actually funny, about 6 of my friends were over talking and such, and he runs into the living room, runs around the back of the couch, and puts his balls on this one girl's forehead. He was 8 years old at the time. I remember this one time after he broke the other Xbox controller, and I was playing a single-player game, and he wanted to play bad, of course, but I wouldn't let him. So finally, he gets totally pissed and kicks me right in the nose, full force. I was sitting on the floor. It didn't hurt as much as you'd think, but I was gushing blood. My mom had to leave the house with him to prevent me from doing the same, and much worse to him. Countless times he has chased me with a look in his eye, with knives, locked me out of the house, chased me with a shovel head. I remember this one time I got in the house before he did and locked him out, and he sat banging on the door with a shovel head and kicking for literally 20 minutes. For my part, I beat the shit out of him many times, but considering he's evil, he kinda deserved it. I'm totally drawing a blank though. Can't think of more, even though the list is endless. Luckily now he's almost 14 and is much more matured. As full-grown adults, my sister hosted myself and some friends from out of town. We were all hungover the next morning, and she said something about being tough, and I said she wasn't that tough, so we wrestled for a bit, and I did the stop hitting yourself thing. She finally gave up, left the room, then came back later smiling and apologizing. She came up to give me a hug, and instead punched me in the throat as hard as she could. Then she laughed as I rolled around on the floor, struggling to breathe. That, and all throughout childhood, she would win fights by kicking me in the balls as hard as she could and run away. At the time, I felt my brother ruin my relationship with my grandpa. I was definitely the F-up in my parents' eyes, but to my grandpa, I was the cat's meow. My brother, 15 at the time, and I, 13, were staying in the same room at my grandparents', and my brother was keeping me up all night with that stupid effing AOL IM sound. Things escalated, and I don't remember if I farted on his face or if we fought or whatever, but his retaliation the next morning was to, in front of my whole family, complain to my grandpa that I kept him up all night by looking at porn on grandpa's computer. It was so terribly awkward. I still remember the uncomfortable look my grandpa had while he said something along the lines of, "Well, it's understandable you would want to look at such things, but please don't do so on my personal computer." She was 10 and I was 7. My mom took us out to get posters for her room. I got a Winnie the Pooh poster and she got a Leonardo DiCaprio one. Titanic had just come out, and Leonardo DiCaprio was the hot stuff. My sister strolled throughout the schoolyard with her friends and told them about my little kid poster, and all of them made fun of me in front of my friends. Made me cry. I was watching TV with my parents when my brother comes out of his room crying like a baby because his girlfriend of maybe a month had broken up with him. I told him to stop crying because they hadn't been going out for very long and he was in effing high school. He decided the appropriate response to this was to effing choke me. My dad got him off me pretty quickly, but I can't figure out why my family still has to ask why my brother and I don't get along. My back garden had a mud patch which now has our shed on it, but back when I was about 6 or 7, my older brothers were out in the back digging holes and it had been raining. The holes quickly filled up with water, and this was when I came out to play. Now, little me thought the holes were only about a couple of inches deep, enough not to go over my wellies, I thought, but no, they had dug a hole as deep as me. "Hey, JJ 101, come over here and splash in the puddles." Sounded fun, right? What followed was me going up to my nose in water and my mom running out in the garden, raging at my brothers who were in hysterics. Either that, or when my brother kneed me in the face and broke my nose. TL, DR, brothers built trap. I got wet. When I was in 3rd grade, my school had a large play put on by the 5th graders. With about 3,000 people in one auditorium, my 6th grade brother told me if I pulled the red lever, fire alarm, not to my 3rd grade knowledge, on the wall, candy would fall from the ceiling. Obviously excited for candy, I pulled that bitch down hella fast. And so, in a great panic, the play was postponed for 2 hours while the fire department cleared the building. I was more sad about not getting candy.